So who wants to kick it off? Our mating voyage. We're going to push off from the dock and start talking about how you're competing with the online portals. I see Roberto Martino, otherwise known as Bobby Martins. He has his hand up. Go ahead. You got the floor.
All right, let's get after it. All right, so I think it's very easy for us to beat the online platforms, but the problem is there's not enough outreach from agents reaching out to clients on a regular basis. So I took a few notes before the meeting here of some of the things that I think that we should be focused on. One, every single person that you are encountering, provide value to them, whether they're a past client, a friend, if they're a lead in your CRM. If you're providing value to them on a regular basis and not just trying to sell them something, I mean, providing value, tips on how to make their house worth more money. I mean, imagine if you're curating a lead over 4, 5, 6 years, a seller lead, and you're providing value all that whole time, they're going to trust you more than you just coming in out of the blue and saying, oh, the iBuyer platform, you're not going to make enough money, you're going to leave money on the table. I mean, obviously, those are some of the easy things that can be said. But so that's the first thing. Now, when you're encountering someone who says to you, let's say you talk to a lead and say, I'm talking to Zillow offers, I'm talking to Open Door, I'm getting options from both. We could either go against the grain or we can go with the grain. So one food for thought is to say, fantastic, we could help you with that too. So picture this in your presentation, in your listing agreement, having something stating that, hey, we're going to bring your house to Zillow offers, to Open Door. We're going to find out what their best offer is. Right around the same time, we're getting your house ready to go on the market. And then we're going to show you what they're going to give you. And obviously we have to work out a commission for yourself in this deal. So in your listing agreement, you should say something like, a seller's agent to get, 1.5% or 1% if seller chooses a iBuyer platform. So going to them and saying, look, we're going to get offers from everybody, even express offers if you want, which is okay. I haven't been thrilled with it, but and so I think the key is go with the grain sometimes and let them know you can help them either way. Because if you just shut it down, then they might just shut you down and you get zero. And so that's not what we want, obviously. Now, think about this. If you do this over and over and over again, and what you're doing is you're building a book of scenarios. So now you come into a listing appointment, now you have a little binder with 10, 20 scenarios that you've done in the past. They can see the actual offers. So for example, we have one that we did a while back. It was let me see, I think it was 715,000 was what Zillow was offering, but then they wanted another 7% on top of that. So the net was much lower than we actually went on the market and sold for much higher. It ended up being about $45,000 to $50,000 more in your pocket. So Mr. Seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is $45,000 to $50,000 important to you? Of course, they're going to say yes. So imagine if you can go, just keep turning the page. Here's the next one. We took this one to Zillow. They said that they would pay this. We ended up selling it for $40,000 more than what they said that they would pay. Plus they had the 7-8% convenience fee. So having examples of past experiences will shut that down immediately when they can see actual examples, because they think that it's going to be easier, and it's not. And so, and then the other part, let's see here. The other thing that I always tell everybody, especially in this market, you'll never know if you're getting a fair price because you're not getting a bidding war on your property. And that's what is going to drive up the price and net you more money, is by getting a bidding war on your property. And in this market, and I believe this market's going to be around a while. I think we're going to have low inventory for a long time. And I think we're going to have bidding wars for a long, long time unless rates go up dramatically. So we better start getting used to this. I haven't experienced a lot of trouble with this. I've been able to kind of shut it down, but San Diego hasn't gotten overrun with these yet because of our price points. So areas like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and things like that, obviously those areas a lot tougher, even more so down in some of the other parts of the country like North Carolina and parts like that. So those are just a few things that I wanted to share, and that's it.
Okay, good. I like that. That's a great point. So, so if I heard you correctly, for all the people that are out there, don't go against the wave. Actually understand what they're looking to do, understand their motivation, figure out why they would entertain an iBuyer portal or an iBuyer program. A lot of times it's just out of necessity, and a lot of times they just need to be educated on how it really works and what they're really offering, because there's a lot of hidden fees, and by the time you really break it down, it's not all that great, the price that they'll get, and they're going to leave money on the table, right? So I think it's important. I wanted to add on what Bobby said. Guys, when you're asking questions to clients who are thinking about selling their house, there's a lot of misinformation. You have to ask questions to really listen, because the days of going in and saying, hey, this is how great I am, and very ego driven, those days are gone. Everybody's looking at how can you be part of the generosity generation, I call it. How can you help me? How can you be a resource? How can you make this the biggest win in my life and make it about me and my family winning? So I think if you break it down that way, you enter that way, that's really, really going to contribute. Does anybody else want to comment on what Bobby was talking about, or do you want to bring up another point?
I could go if I don't know if you saw my hand was raised, but
I see it. Matt's up next. Go ahead.
Cool. So I'm going to speak from the iBuyer perspective, because that's one of our sister's company is an iBuyer. I mean, we're no Zillow. We have a company here in San Diego, CT Homes. We're actually an approved express offers buyer here in the San Diego County. And here's, doing both, right? Running a brokerage before we moved to XP, and also overseeing CT Homes for 7 years. The biggest thing I would tell you guys, if I were to equip you better as agents against us, the iBuyers, in an example like this would be, is that there has to be a real reason why a seller would want to sell to a cash buyer.
Right.
It's got to be a real motivation. So when I would go to a seller appointment that responded to one of our, We Buy Houses cash, postcard or whatever, I would go in there and say, look, I'm a licensed agent. I'm here to discuss the cash program, but it doesn't work for everybody. So let me hear what is the real situation. And like Pete said, I'm going to listen. I'm going to connect with the seller and understand the real pain points. Why would they even want to consider a cash offer? Like, what's exciting about that for them? And if they don't need to sell fast, or if the house is not falling apart around them, like literally, right, which I've seen, and many of you maybe have seen, then there's really no real reason for a seller to accept a cash offer. And I would honestly tell them, look, in that moment, if I start asking questions and they keep telling me, and all the answers are leaning like, wait, there is no real motivation. They could actually put it on the market. They don't need to sell in the next 10 days. They could wait 60, 90 days because they just told me that the house is mortgageable. So if I'm literally analyzing that situation as I'm listening, then I would straight up go and tell them, like, look, Mr. Seller, like, I don't think this qualifies for the cash program. Based on what you just told me, I actually don't even recommend it, right? And I would then, if I'm comfortable, which in many cases at that point I was the agent, so I also had a team, I'd be like, look, we could actually get you more money on the open market, right? So I was able to basically put take the server approach, listen to them, and then based on what their real needs are. And then it's interesting what happens at that point. Some of these sellers would then actually start telling me the truth. Not, small percentage, right? Would be like, well, I didn't tell you that I actually have this lien and I owe Uncle Bob X amount of money, and I really actually should sell in the next 2 weeks. And because now I build trust because they realize I'm not trying to corner them in any direction. I'm just here to listen. I'm here to serve them. And based on what their real need and motivation is, I'm just going to give them a solution based on what they told me. And then sometimes we would end up walking out with a cash offer. And then sometimes we would end up walking out with a listing and putting it on the market, because the truth is they will get more money in the open market, probably 99% of the times, versus going with a cash buyer. I mean, there's a reason why cash buyers are cash buyers, and I'll end on that.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And you got to listen. You got to understand that. Matt, I know you're up. I know you handle this a lot. Go ahead. Give your input.
So, yeah, for a while I was running ads. A lot of the appeal of selling to an iBuyer is simply that people don't want to go through the hassle of putting their house on the market and having people come through. And so a lot of people, it's appealing at first to, well, that would be much easier if I could just sell my house, without having to put it on the market, without having a sign out front and all these different things. So I get a lot of appointments because I was running ads for a while that was sell without listing. So you can sell your house without, going through, putting it on the market, having a sign out front, doing open houses, lockbox, and all those things. And so what I would do is when I would get calls like that, and I still do get calls like that, is I'd say, look, I can come out and I can give you both options. We work with a lot of investors, and I know what their formula is. So once I see your house, I can tell you what they would likely pay. And then I can also give you another option, which is to sell it on the open market, and you can go with either option or neither, so there's very little obligation. And then when I get out to the house, I would sit down and look at their house, and I would do the same thing and say, that Randy was just mentioning, like, okay, well, gosh, your house looks to be in good condition. And all of these investors, what I tell them is, we have investors that have, the reason we use the investors that we use is they have very slim profit margins compared to most of the investors out there. Most of these investors, they're taking a risk and they want to make, they want to make their profit and so on and so forth. They have to be conservative. The ones that we use have very, very, very slim profit margins, and that's why we use them. They also don't do the bait and switch, so they don't give you a really great offer, and then after you're all packed up and they're about to remove contingencies, they tell you, well, after we did the inspection and, gee, we found all these problems and we're concerned about the market, and then they lower their price. So the investors that we use don't do that. And what I tell them is, if you want to go with this investor option, we only charge 2.5%. The investors represent themselves. And so we represent you and so forth. But I tell them, here's the way the investors work. Any investor, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, any of these guys, they all use, a lot of the same investors, frankly, and they're all going to buy your house and flip it. So if they're going to buy your house and flip it, even the guys that we use, they want to make 6 to 8% profit. And sometimes I tell them that over the phone. The investors that we use, they would literally buy a house for $1 million to make 60 grand. And I say the reason they do that is they do a lot of volume. You and I would never do that because that's way too much risk for such a small return, but they do a lot of volume, so they will. But even with that said, here's what they're going to do. They're going to buy your house for, let's say, whatever the number is, $700,000. First of all, they're going to spend at least 50, 60 grand doing a remodel, right? They have 5% selling costs when they turn around and flip it. And then they want to make that 6 to 8% profit. So even for your house, which is say $700,000, let's add up all those percentages, the 6 to 8% profit, the 5% selling costs, the 50, 60 grand they're going to spend to remodel it, that adds up. And so we just do the math. I do the math with them. And I use a line that from my good friend, Brian Moses, who a lot of you guys know, who years ago said, I remember telling me, price is a function of demand. So the more people that know your house is for sale, the more you're going to get for it. And even if you've already gotten an offer from one of these iBuyers, that's great. You don't have to sell it to them in a vacuum. So if you got an offer from Zillow a lot of times Zillow, for example, will give really high offers. And the other thing that I mentioned to them is, all these iBuyers are going to do a home inspection. When they do the home inspection, they're going to make it a point to give you a copy of the home inspection. And then they're going to tell you, if you sell this house to somebody else, you have to share this inspection. So now you have this, so I tell them, you got to be careful with these investors. But at the end of the day, I say, if you got an offer for $700,000 from Zillow, wonderful. Put it in your back pocket. Let's put your house on the market. We'll sell it in 2 or 3 weeks, and let's see what we get. And if we can't bring you an offer that beats what you got from Zillow or one of these iBuyers, you can still go sell it to them, right? You can cancel the listing and do whatever you want to do. But, at the end of the day, all of these investors they're planning on flipping your house. And so there is no scenario where you're not going to get more selling it on the open market to a regular buyer than you're going to get selling it to an investor, unless you have a cracked slab or, some major issue where, it's not, buyer can't get financing. But otherwise, you're always going to get more on the open market. Price is a function of demand. And so if you just sit down and, I was in an appointment a couple of weeks ago and I said, honestly, I'm just going to talk to you like you're a friend of mine. You're insane if you sell this to an investor, because you're going to get much, much more on the open market. So that's the general gist of it. I find if you can just get in the door with somebody that's considering, let's face it, guys, people go on Zillow and they pull up their house on Zillow. There's an ad right in their face that says, we'll buy your house for this crazy dollar amount. So it's very appealing. But at the end of the day, again, with Zillow, they're paying a 7 or 8%, whatever it's called, convenience fee or commission. But if you can just get in front of them, and so I think it kind of goes back to marketing, figure out a way to get that seller to call you and say, hey, by the way, I'm exploring the idea of selling it to an investor. And then, you can just say, look, we have a great platform where we can get competing investors within 72 hours, competing offers from investors. Again, price is a function of demand. The more people that know your house is for sale, the more you're going to get for it.
Love that. All right, Aaron Taylor, the real estate guy out of Las Vegas, the man, the myth, the legend. You're up.
Hey guys, how you doing? Bobby was texting me going, hey, tell him about your cash back. Talk to him about, and I was like, all right, I will. But everything Randy said and Matt said is fantastic. I'm on board with everything you guys do, and we do a lot of the same things here. We give them a 3-step program, always asking them the right questions. Randy made a good point. You got to ask the right questions, and you got to have a genuine care for the client to really do what's best for them. Most of the times, we're an iBuyer company too, and most of the homes that we buy from folks, if they have to sell it to an iBuyer company such as us, is because they're either hoarders or they have some kind of phobia where they don't want people in their house. But that's kind of last option for them. I always explain to the seller that if you put in the MLS and you have 18,000 real estate agents look at it and 100,000 people, you're just going to get more, no matter what option you want. No matter if you want to just sell it to an iBuyer, if you want to sell on the open market, the more people that look at it, the more money you're going to get. What we've been doing a lot lately, especially the last couple of years, and we by doing this, we're buying less properties, is that we have 2 other options. And one of them is we actually fix the house up for the client with our flip crew, and then we sell it in the open market. That's been very successful. And we're able to get the client thousands of more dollars. The only problem is now we don't make the profit they do. But in the whole scheme of things, and I know all of you guys at this level in our business, the more we give, the more we receive, right? I know we're all at that level as far as helping real estate agents, helping clients. It's all about what we can do for others, not just for ourselves. And we put every system that we have in place with that mindset on what can we do for the community and really what's best for the seller. The other thing that we put in place that really might give you guys another tool, and not everybody can do it, is we give cash advances for sellers. And we always have a couple $200,000 or $300,000 out on cash advances. We give cash advances to sellers for vacation, relocation, repairs, pay a credit card, catch payments. We don't care what it is. We'll give them a cash advance from $5,000 to sometimes $30,000 or $40,000. Of course, it depends on their situation. but there's a lot of scenarios where a seller will use you and take that cash advance. Now, the reason we put these things in place too, and we help folks, is that we always charge a 6% commission and a $7.95 transaction fee. We do not deviate from that ever, because we show value when we walk in the house. We have a listing presentation. We ask the right questions. We do the right things, and we're really there to help them, regardless of what program they want. When we give cash advances, we don't charge interest. We don't charge anything. We have great documentation that was done by our real estate attorney. And I tell you, of all the years I've been doing this, I think I've been burnt twice, and really burnt, but I'm getting my money anyways, based on the list pendants and the documentation I have. But yeah, I just wanted, Bobby asked me to go over our cash advances and what we do to our sellers to help them out and then acquire more business as well.
I think that's great input. And I think Morgan Freeman has nothing on you. You look like a godly figure floating around in the clouds there. The real estate guy, he's up there. Look, it's like he was sent down from heaven to compete with the iBuyer portal and help you save your home and get more money.
We're all going to be there eventually.
He's on his yacht down in Exuma right now, I bet.
Probably. I like that 6% professional fee and $7.95 transaction fee on those types of houses. And how do you, is it written right into the listing?
What was the question? Does it go right into the listing?
Yeah, the 6% professional fee and the $7.95 transactional fee does go right into the listing.
Yeah, that's our cost for doing business. And I'll tell you, even when we don't do repairs, I know there's a lot of discount brokers and everybody has their way of doing business, which is awesome. We need it, right? But we have such a dynamite listing presentation, and we create so much value and build that relationship in such a short time that we really get every listing we want. And very, very rarely does anybody ever balk over a commission. I remember one guy, just off the top of my head, about 3 months ago, an agent asked me to go with him on this listing. It was one of my agents. And I said, sure, I'll go. But they said he is not listing his house more than 1%. I'm telling you right now, that's all he cares about is a commission. It's 1%. And I said, okay, well, let's go. Let me do my thing and see what happens. So we get our pie, we go to the door, I do all my research. As soon as we open the door, the guy goes, hey, I'm Bob. I shake his hand or whatever. He goes, hey, what's your commission? Like right away. And I look at him dead straight in his eye and I go, 8%. And then I just went on to, hey, these are the 3 things we're going to do. Where am I going to set up? Let's look at your house. I'm so excited to see this beautiful house. The guy looks at me freaking cross-eyed, like, what's wrong with this dude, right? So we're walking the house, and I'm making a real long story short. We're walking the house. I'm building my rapport. I'm looking at the pictures, creating the relationship. He goes, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He goes, what's your commission? And I said, 8%. You didn't hear me the first time? And then I just kept on going and, going through the presentation, doing everything I'm doing. Well, then we got down to the actual presentation. I get my laptop up. I'm going over, everything about us and our company and what we do for them. Then we get right into the nuts and bolts, the cost of the house. I always do my net sheet in front of people because that's my stall tactic, right? I never want to bring it to somebody because that's it filled out, because that's telling them that I think I already know what the house is worth. And that whole walkthrough with them, that whole dance was for nothing. So I'm doing the net sheet with them. And of course I do the net sheet at 6% and $7.95. So I put it in front of them and I start going over the cost. This is your commission, 6%. This is half of escrow, title insurance, transfer tax, blah, 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 blah. The guy looks at me and goes, oh, fuck, man. He goes, thank you. 6% I'm good with. I thought you were saying 8. I'm not paying 8, but I'm good with 6. So I'll tell you, it's all how it's perceived. It's all how it's done. And I just love telling that story because, he was that driver personality too, right? So stick with that 6%, man. You're worth it.
I like that. Did you tell them that there's times that you forget who you are and that's why you said 8% and you're trying to figure out where you are at the moment?
No, he knew I was messing with him. I told him I was messing with him.
Yeah, but it's a good way to break the ice and get there. I mean, people are so afraid to talk professional fees. And just remember, everybody out there, and I'm just going to give you a quick tip. Stop referring to discount brokers as discount brokers. That's a positive. refer to them as reduced service brokerages, because that's what they are. That's a negative. You don't want to turn a negative into a positive when people are comparing you to some of these iBuyer portals, because it's going to be less service and so forth. And that's what we're providing: top-notch service, advice, direction, marketing, resources, everything to make it a huge win for them. That's the key thing. Aaron, would you be so kind to share your listing presentation? Do you have it where you can share it?
Well, I'll tell it to you in like 60 seconds, just give you the basics, but I can always email it to you. But I just created a system that works really good for us. Is we always show up with we always bring a pie, an apple pie. If I know the person really good, I bring a bottle of wine. I never like to go to anybody's house empty-handed. And my listing agents have perfected it. They do it exactly like me. So we show up with something. That kind of takes the barrier down just a tad when you show up with something. As soon as I walk into the house, I hand them the pie and I let them know exactly what I'm going to do, which I learned from the three-way call, which I was doing all the time, is that I clear the time right away. When I talk to them, I let them know exactly, hey, I got you for an hour. This is what I got on my schedule. Are you still good with the same hour that I got? Oh yeah, man, we're so glad you're here. And then I let them know what's going to happen. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit at your table. I'm going to set up, and then I want to walk around and look at your beautiful house. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little presentation about me and my company. Then we're going to get right into the nuts and bolts of things and tell you what your house is worth and go to there. So, and I say kind of the same thing every time, but people need to know what's expected of them prior to you, because you just can't show up and wing it. You got to let them know the expectations, whether, especially if you're going to try to buy the house, right? So then once I set up, I pull everything up. Oh, if they ever ask you if you want a piece of pie, never say no. Because if they ask you if you want coffee and pie, 100% you get the listing. And you guys can see, I've done a lot of listings. I always eat the pie, always. So
always eat the pie. I like
it. Damn pie.
I like that.
So then when I do the dance, which I call the dance, looking at their house, that process should take as long as it takes. I mean, let it go. You need to create that rapport and that bond with them. And you're basically talking about everything but the house, and you're firing questions at them during the course of the dance of things that you need to know, right? Why are you selling your house? Where are you moving to? Some people you could ask, what do you think your house is worth? I mean, there's questions that you can ask that they'll give you to help you help them better. So I do that dance part. Then I sit down, we go over the presentation, which is really talks about, it's like our 15 seconds of fame. It's bragging about ourselves, why you called us, all the marketing stuff that we do for their house. We don't just stick it in the MLS, but we do a lot of other things, radio show, our CRM system, or everything we do, social media, all the fluff stuff. And then by the time I sit down with them and go over numbers, that takes as long as it takes too, depending on their personality. I love going over net sheets, and I love talking to the seller about 6% commission as much as possible. I will say the 6% commission at every opportunity I get, and they don't balk over it. Now, once I'm done with everything and we came to an agreement, my close is always the assumption close, unless we're doing more of cash advances and more repairing of the house. But I always do the assumption close, because I always assume that when they called me and I get there, that they need me to help them anyway. It's like, I already got the job. That's why I'm there. I'm not getting interviewed. I'm here really to interview you and see if we're a good fit. So I have the job. Now, the last thing I do, which I think this is money, and I created this a long time ago, I call it the practice close. So if for some reason, when I throw the duties owed, or when I'm ready to get them to sign paper, and everybody knows when that time is, right? It's just like when you're recruiting an agent and you're about to get them to sign up with EXP, that last question you need to ask them. If they say they need to meet with other agents, if they say they need to wait, they need to talk to whatever they need to do, then I go to, and I ask them if they have about 15 more minutes, and they always say yes. And I'll say, look, I'm going to go over this paperwork with you. I'm going to have you sign it right now, but you're going to keep it. And when we're done with it, if you want me to take it, I'll take it. If not, I'll pick it up tomorrow. But there's so much more that I need to answer for you that are in this packet of papers here. So I call that the practice close. And I don't need to use it too often, but when I do, it's because I didn't do the dance correctly. If I didn't do the dance correctly, which was build the rapport and create a relationship, then I have to do the practice close. That means I didn't find their pain, right? I didn't find it to get them to help them. So then I'll do the practice close. And most of the time, I just end up taking the paperwork, right there.
Love it.
That's it.
Great stuff.
Really quick stuff for you right there.
Well, it's great stuff because you're pre-framing to them what to expect and so forth, and you're making it all about them and getting their questions answered and moving forward. And you're excited and you're connected and you're involved in it. And I think that's a key kind of component to it. Does anybody else want to add any type of strategy when it comes to iBuyer portals? Can't see everybody's hands, so.
I think Pete would be nice if you guys already have examples, which I think Bobby mentioned, like it would be good to share those examples for others that don't have those examples, because those are the most powerful thing you can use. I mean, it's hard to argue a real life example. Like
right.
It's impossible. Like, how do you argue that if it's a real life example? So if some of us here don't have those, maybe at some point, like we discussed, Pete, is to start creating that library of stuff, right? And they don't have to even be in the same state, the examples, right? It's just like, hey, we could be like, hey, my partner, friend Aaron Taylor in this state has dealt with this, and here's what he had. And then we can name it from anywhere. It doesn't matter. They all literally do the same thing, especially if they're addressing Zillow, Open Door, these national companies.
Right. Well, that's good input. All right, so let's go over to Mitch Ryback out of the beautiful state of Florida. Mitch, give us some input on iBuyer programs and those portals and how you compete with that.
Yeah, so we're starting to see a little bit of that here, not too much yet, but it's starting to come into the area. I've had to deal with 2 of them in the past couple of weeks. And and I learned this from a friend of mine who actually used OfferPad and bought a house, and he paid a 12% convenience fee.
Wow.
12%. So I think one of the things that's really, I don't think consumers actually understand that that's commission. Because that was the first thing he said to me. He goes, yeah, I didn't use a realtor, I used OfferPad, didn't have to pay any commission. So he showed me his stuff. I said, well, yeah, you paid 12% commission. I would have charged you 6%. So I think it's really understand, we take that all for granted because we know all of that stuff because we all do this for a living every day.
Yeah.
But I think when you're talking to the average consumer, they don't have a clue. And like I said, he really didn't believe he paid any commission. Not only did he not pay commission, I did the valuation of his house. It was 25% less than value. So he really got about 60% of value, 62%, whatever, 63%. So I think really understanding that when you're talking to people about that is understanding that, I know they're going to offer you that, but like I think it was Matt said, they're going to knock you down on the inspection every time. And then you're going to pay, 7 to 10%, 12%. This guy paid 12% fee. So.
Yeah, I mean, usually the rule of thumb on the iBuyer program is they would be offering maybe 70, 80% of value tops. And then they take off their fees off of that. I mean, a lot of times they say there's no fees or this and that. We all know that nobody does anything for free. And then what they're doing is they're just trying to fix up the house and turn it right around and make money off advertising and lead gen and all these other types of different angles that they have. But in the long run, the seller is kind of getting screwed because they don't realize that they think it's just this quick and easy, convenient thing to get the money they're supposed to. Typically, they're leaving 20, 30% on the table, especially if we came in and advised them just do a few little things and to walk around the house, say, hey, I would try to do this, I would try to do that, after they sign the listing. Now, let me ask you guys this. I'm going to put this out there with the iBuyer program and anybody can chime in. Do you allow them on the listing contract? So Matt was saying, hey, let's expose it. Let's get it out there. I mean, the saying was price is a function of demand. We want to see how much demand is out there. Do you allow them to write in there that if they choose to go through an iBuyer program, that you'll allow them out of the contract or they don't owe you a professional fee? Or if they find the buyer, it's a different professional fee?
So I think you actually, were you talking to me or can I pipe in real quick? I think we should be putting it into the agreement that if they do decide to go the iBuyer route, we're still helping them. And, and this is one of the things that I do when I talk to clients. I say, look, we're not just here to help you sell the house. We're here to be a moving concierge. We've got movers, we've got packers, we've got the whole system to make the process easier for you. And I think that's something where we as an industry kind of need to shift to, because people are finding their houses online by themselves. And, so they're feeling the need or they might feel the need to not use us anymore and just go direct to these companies. But, in the end, that's not in their best interest. We also need to look at why are they wanting to do this? Maybe they have a house in mind. Maybe they need a fast sale. And if so, have some tools in place that can help them. For example, New American Funding, if you guys are familiar with that bank, they now have a program where you can be a cash buyer on your property first and then sell later. HomeLight also has the same thing. So my team now has two options to be able to help clients with that. So when people are saying to me, hey, we're thinking about using this, and I'll immediately say something like, why do you need a really fast sale for some reason? And they'll say, well, sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes, obviously sometimes they'll say no. And then we get to the heart of the problem. And I've started offering the cash advances just like Aaron does. Haven't had to use it once yet, which is interesting. And I've offered it up probably a few dozen times. People have the money. Once you offer it up, they generally, they know that they don't really need it. But at the heart of the problem in our industry right now is we have to remember one thing: our fiduciary duty. We are not investors. We should not be coming in with our investor cap as a listing agent. And if we do come in with our investor cap on and we're just more focused on that, then you're typically going to have people pushing you away instead of coming in and really having a broad approach of, we could help you any way you want, whether you want to buy first, sell first, whatever the situation is. And so I think it's really up to us to provide options and solutions to people's problems. That's the biggest thing.
No, great input. Aaron Taylor, we're back to you. Come to us from heaven again.
I just wanted to show you something really quick.
He's eating a piece of pie, everyone.
Actually, I'm eating my breakfast, but this company we don't use anymore, but we still do it. So my listing agent, what she'll do is if someone really wants an iBuyer, then what we do is a side-by-side comparison. Can you guys see that? No?
No. Can you send that to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's a side-by-side comparison of Zillow, OfferPad, Wedgwood, me, all the iBuyer companies. And what we do is we just put a little commission in there. So if they're really wanting to use an iBuyer company and they want to go to all these places, hey, don't do it. We'll do it for you. You don't have to do the hassle. And then you have me as a consultant to look out for you. So we give them the side-by-side comparison right here. And if I can compete, well, I got the numbers. I'm doing the numbers. If I want to compete, I play with my numbers. But if I don't, well, then I sell it to George at Zillow and he pays me a commission. Maybe I don't make as much, but I would have got the deal anyways. So if you want, I'll forward you this as an example, and then you can see, because here's the thing, guys, and you guys know this. I want to help them at any capacity, whatever they want to do. I just tell them, I want to be there for you. Whether you want to sell it to me, sell it to an iBuyer, have me fix it, put it on the open market. I want to help you. I want to be there for you and your family. And, we always ask them that question. If they know anybody buying or selling a house, are we the guy? So that's the point of the appointment anyways, that we look at it. It's not even to sell the fucking house or it's to get the referral business forever. Sorry, I swore. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I'm getting fired up.
Listen, Aaron, don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel. All right. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I'm going back to eating. I love you guys.
Okay. Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, just so a couple of companies to use for these things. If you don't know them, they're both got great reputations. Curbio is a concierge program where they'll come in and pay. They'll do repairs up to $25,000.
That's CURBIO.
Yep. And for people that will actually buy the house for you cash that you're trying to buy, because as you know, I don't know every market, but our market here is crazy. And so the challenge we're having right now is when we're going to buy, nobody's selling because they can't find a house to buy, right? So what this company will do is they'll buy the house cash for you while you're selling your house. and pay you a 1%, charge you, I believe it's 1%. So it's two different companies, knock.com, Knock, Knock, and then Curbio, both really good companies.
Okay, good. Awesome. I put that in there. It's Curbio for repairs,
Fly Homes is
knock.com.
another one. Fly Homes is another one.
Fly Homes, okay.
And by the way, guys, I'm taking notes on all of this. So at the end of the meeting, I'm going to drop everything in the chat. And then all you got to do is just copy and paste it, and you'll have a list of all of these notes.
Okay, good. I'm putting them in as we go, but it's better if it's all organized, and I know you're the most organized on this whole thing. So does anybody else want to add anything on the iBuyer portals before we put it out there where anybody on the Zoom can ask questions in the chat bar? Okay, we're at 9:45. We have 15 minutes left. We're in our speed round where anybody who's on this business playbook mastermind Zoom can ask any question you want. We'll try to help you guys and get your skills better and help you make more money and do more production. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat bar right now or raise your hand and we'll call upon you. All right, here's my question, you guys, to everybody out there. What's the percentage right now that iBuyers are controlling in the marketplace of recent sales? How about that?
I could chime in there.
Go ahead, Matt.
So, I think you run into them more depending on the sort of marketing that you're doing. I love it when people say, well, we're talking to Zillow or we're talking to, an investor, because that shows they're a motivated seller. And that means that I can get in the door. And to me, that I love that. And it's very, very rare that I ever, once you can sit down and kind of break it down with the seller, unless they have some, there's something, sir. I mean, it's really, I do a lot of marketing to try to get people that are thinking about going that direction to call me, because to me, they're the easiest appointments. So I think they're great. And I think but you have to market yourself so that you might be one of the people they call when they're contemplating, selling to an investor, et cetera.
Right. So it all comes down to marketing and how you get in front of those people so that you're top of mind when they're considering options on that.
So you get an appointment and you get an at bat before they go ahead and sell it at 70% of the value, like Mitch mentioned. Yeah,
because sometimes we've been seeing in Southern California, I've lost maybe one or two listings where people were going to sell. They're out in the Escondido area, which is just east of San Diego, and they were moving cross country. So they were pretty motivated and they were nervous about COVID. And what they ended up doing was selling it directly to Zillow. And at the time, Zillow paid them a pretty significant amount of money and then turned around and sold it 30 days later for 40, 50 grand more. And I think all they did was basically paint the inside of the house. So those people definitely left money on the table, but it wasn't a ton because, Zillow charged them something. I didn't see the net sheet.
Well, Aaron made a really good point, I think, which is, it's still a listing appointment, and the most important thing, at the end of the day, if you've ever gone back when you haven't gotten a listing and called people back and, when they tell you they went with so-and-so, and you ask them, gee, what could I have done differently? And they give you the most ridiculous answer in the world. And it's because you didn't build enough rapport and you didn't close them. And, they ended up listing with somebody else because that person built rapport with them and closed them.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's so basic. I love Aaron's story about bringing an apple pie. That's awesome.
Well, because he loves apple pie. It has nothing to do with getting a listing. He's got to have an apple pie a day. All right, AT, you're up again. Come out of the sky.
I didn't mean to raise my hand. Let me get rid of it. Sorry.
Yeah, but I want you to add to the apple pie debate here. Do you go just to eat a piece of apple pie, or do you actually go to get business?
Well, actually, I do like apple pie, and I like drinking alcohol even more. So I really enjoy it when I drink wine with my clients. But yeah, the apple pie is just, It just seems American. And you're right. Buying a house, if they want to sell their house to an iBuyer company, that's a listing appointment. We look at every client touch, and now we're starting to look at every realtor touch as a form of adding people to our database. So now I'm starting to put agents in my database, just like I would a client. And maybe you guys have been doing it forever, but I'm old school. And I just started putting real estate agents that I talk to in my database. I'm going to drip them, campaign them just like we do people. But if we ask clients and buyers and sellers and the same question, that old mayor campaign. And if they were to buy or sell a house or knew anybody that was, is there an agent you would use to refer business to? Well, now I'm starting to ask realtors the same damn question. If you were ever thinking about moving to another real estate company or were never happy where you're at, would EXP ever be an option for you? And they either say yes or no. And if they say no, great. That's no.
Move on.
Yeah, but some of them go, well, I might have, or I've heard about it a little bit ago. And so then we do what we can and we put them in our database and just keep farming them. So I'm getting better at that as I'm getting older in my senior citizen years.
What are you using for a database?
Well, we just switched. We're using KV Core. We have a place in there that we put agents. We just have agent contacts. We throw them in KV Core, but we're just switching from Sync over to KV Core, and it's been crazy. I'm sure you guys have all done it before. It's nuts when you do it.
Awesome. Okay, let's go to Cameron. Cameron's got a question. Go ahead, buddy.
I remember when we switched over from what we were using to KV Core, and it was also quite a week. Question back to the iBuyer program. You got to remember that we're providing service. Everything is service, and that is the key when you're competing against iBuyers. Typically, you can give them the numbers make service, but you have to make sure that people understand the numbers you're giving them. I think it was Aaron, I think you were saying this, you got to tell people what they need to hear. You have to explain it to them. Once they hear it, once they explain it, once they see you're providing something more than what you can get from Zillow or HomeLight or whatever it may be, it's not a hard close once they see the numbers and you explain them to them and you make sure they understand them.
And did you walk them through the net sheet? Do you bring a net sheet with you?
Absolutely. You always bring a net sheet with you. I still do it on paper because everyone down here is, a little bit older. So having something on writing that's a little bit bigger text is better. I've tried using a computer numerous times and it just falls apart. So everything's in writing. All of my examples on like the Zillow iBuyer program, we have a little folder, basic folder that you have the old flyers on, and it works really well.
Okay, it's like a flip chart, like a tripod.
Like a tripod, probably like they did a lot in the 80s and the 90s.
And where did you get most of the data on Zillow iBuyer or the other iBuyer programs? Do you have a comparison sheet, or do you explain the ins and outs of each program and educate them?
With the iBuyers, it's all verbal because it just finds it easier to me. They already usually have a number from Zillow or whoever they're using, but you're just explaining the differences of how it works. The best comparison I've always used, or the best objection handler I've used, is, do you guys remember those "We Buy Homes" cash signs? Well, The iBuyer programs are the 21st century "We Buy Homes" cash signs. And once you compare it to that, their mindset changes. They're a discount buyer. They're trying to get a deal. And once they understand that, you have explained it to them, and then they're on your side. So that's I don't have a flip chart that compares it directly like I believe Aaron did. I'd love to see that, but we use it verbally.
All right, AT, you got to send that to me so I can put it in the chat and give it to everyone.
Yeah, I'll send you the example so you can see it.
All right, so listen, that's great stuff. Cameron's really 68 years old, but because of the humidity down in Florida, he looks 24. And that's why he usually doesn't deal with computers or anything. He doesn't know how to turn them on. But that's the deal down there. Does anybody else want to add on what Cameron was talking about? When you go to talk to people, or listen, I should say, to people and help them break this down and educate them and guide them, is there anything else that you're bringing to them or providing to them up front to break down barriers?
I think what's important, what Matt said, is offer your service as a consultant no matter what way they go, because they have someone in their corner. Otherwise, they don't even know if they're making the right decision at that point.
Right.
If they go directly to the cash buyer, they really don't know. At that point, they're doubting everything the moves they're making, and obviously they're being sold as if everything is standard, that everything is going beautifully. But the truth is, I've had the same example even where I was helping one of our employees, and I was about to list the property, and out of the blue, they got a cash offer from someone from Orange County, and I said, look, just send it over to me. Let me just review it. And do I have your permission to contact them and see, I can vet them out, because they knew that we also have an investment company. So I said, look, I can vet them out and tell you, are they for real? Are they trying to wholesale? Are they going to do bait and switch? And sure enough, they sent me the contract. I contacted them like, hey, I'm an agent. I presented exactly what my role is. I'm here to just help my client understand what are you trying to offer, and just get to know your situation better. Like, are you closing? What are the terms? And at that point, the moment I started getting involved, they disappeared. Literally, they stopped communicating. And then my trust went through the roof with my client, who was on the fence signing a listing agreement. But I kind of took the approach that Matt said, look, let me consult you. If they buy you, just pay me X.
What is usually X? What do you guys usually charge on that?
Well, this one was, I just offered, I think it was 1%. I said, if they end up buying it, let me just consult you and just give me 1%. We're never going to list it. We don't have to, if it's the right offer, but I tell them that most of the time it's not going to work out in your favor, but let me vet them out. And sure enough, it was a complete freaking disaster. Like they completely disappeared, because when they realized they had a professional like myself that knows everything about iBuyers to pick them apart, they were gone. They never started replying to us. And then my client at that point was like, okay. And then we signed a regular listing agreement, right? A 5% in that case, and put it on the market. Anyway, it's just be a consultant.
No, I think it's good stuff. Let's go over to Ulysses Vega. He has a question. Go ahead, buddy. I love the microphone.
Thank you all. Well, honestly, I think I'm excited that I got to be part of this mastermind session. I think everybody brought a lot of value. And again, I want to definitely chime in with bringing value. What is your value proposition? Why do you deserve that 6%? And I recently did a video about me having breakfast at this hotel in San Diego, where I was staying for the NAREB National Convention, and everybody was making fun of the fact that I paid $50 for breakfast for one. Now, $50 for some might be a lot, for some may not be, but I did a video and I said, well, the value proposition is that they brought me my coffee at my table without me having to beg for a refill. They saw my badge on the table and said, Mr. Vega, would you like some more breakfast? Would you like more of this? It was the service that I was paying. It wasn't that the eggs and hash browns were worth $50. So I did a video and I turned it around to entrepreneurs and I said, are you the $50 breakfast for one, or are you the value meal? Are you known in your area as the cheapest realtor, or are you the one that brings the value? Cameron said about always being prepared, bringing the net sheet, bringing the energy. Why should they go to you? Also, know your audience. If you're going to have somebody that's analytical, bring the graphs and charts and pie charts. Definitely do not show up without net sheets. I think that's suicide. I bring, again, first and foremost, it's the energy. People hire you because of you, the energy, the passion that you have for what you do, but also obviously you got to come through and deliver the goods. To me, a listing appointment, it's obviously a job interview, but it's also something that I can relate to a musician performing. You're there to perform. You're there to bring your A game. So at the end of the day, I'm there to solve somebody's problem. And I always heard that we get paid based on our ability to solve other people's problems. And I tell my agents, if your income is not where you want to be, maybe you're not solving enough people's problems. So go out there and solve more people's problems. What is your value proposition? And are you an asset? I don't call myself a real estate agent. I call myself a real estate wealth advisor, because that's exactly what we do. We advise homeowners on how to build generational wealth. Real estate just happens to be the vehicle. So everybody says, well, I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. Well, I'm a real estate wealth advisor. Oh, damn. You must have a different degree. No, I just view myself in a different way. That's all.
It's awesome.
It starts with us.
Great mindset, Ulysses. And just remember, if Aaron was at that breakfast table, he would have gave you a piece of pie. You would have paid 75
I
bucks.
would have loved to have sat down with Aaron and have a piece of apple pie. I think my pandemic belly definitely shows that, yeah.
See, and you know something, the funniest thing, it would have been 75 to 100 bucks, but you would have got value out of it.
I would have treated Aaron to breakfast and an apple pie any day of the week. I think he's a rock star, and I can't wait to connect with him, because again, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I want to be the dumbest. I want to have breakfast where Cameron and Bobby have breakfast. I want to learn from those guys.
Right.
So,
that's how you triple, quadruple your production. Show everybody
Amen.
your shirt. I love your shirt. Show me your shirt. Again, stand up.
I am all in, baby.
You got to be all in real estate to
That's
really
right.
knock it out of the park. I love it. Great energy, great input. Look, guys, it's 10 o'clock. Thank you for everybody's input. Great mastermind. Let's bring it next week. I'll send out the text and the email with what the topic is going to be. Let's everybody show up and make it happen. Unfortunately, next week I have a conflict. I won't be there. Just full free frame it to everyone. Mitch Ryback's going to be running the show. And by then he'll probably have some here. I might even send him a toupee so he looks like me.
Before you guys
that's the
leave,
deal.
check out the docs that I just put, the Google Doc I just put in the notes. That has notes from today.
That's awesome. Bobby, thank you for being the secretary of the universe and taking down it. You're definitely the most organized guy that I know. Everybody, thank you for your input. Have a great week, great weekend. Make it happen. Be positive, be solution oriented, and help people. We'll talk to you soon.